Welcome back to my channel, guys. Finally, I don't know if this is the first time that Trump has mentioned this publicly, but finally he has called out the fake Michigan Whitmer kidnapping plot hoax. Just so everybody is aware, the retrial of Adam Fox and Barry Croft starts tomorrow. I will be covering that. I will be traveling to Michigan in person to be there for the verdict and potentially some other things. So it's just really important, though, that this becomes a national issue, right? Like the entire country needs to know what the FBI did in this case. And it isn't a left or right thing. It is a, should the FBI be entrapping American citizens? Because they've done it to everybody, to every group, to every political party. This is simply what they do. And it is unacceptable. It is egregious misconduct, and the FBI should no longer exist. So first of all, before we play this clip here of Trump at the CPAC 2022 talking about this, I wanted to just remind you of what we are dealing with here with the FBI. So you guys, if you saw the prior video on my channel of Ted Cruz confronting Christopher Wray, the FBI director, about this sham, this hoax, and he said, "Oh, I've got to get on a plane. I can't answer these questions. I got to go." This is what he was actually doing. Revealed, the criminal Chris Wray gave the Senate the finger, claiming he had an unmissable plane he had to catch. That plane, paid for by the taxpayers, was taking him to his weekend vacation venue. Of course, while the average American can barely afford to put gas in their car and food on their table, Christopher Wray flies on luxury jets to his vacation home when he isn't entrapping you. Via Julie Kelly, "Holy shit, a great find at Miranda Devine." Quote, "The luxury FBI Gulfstream Wray uses was recorded on Flight Radar 24, making the 1 hour and 12-minute flight later that afternoon to Bucolic Saranac Lake. In the Adirondacks, wherever that is, which happens to be a favorite summer destination since his childhood. Christopher Wray cut off U.S. senators to quote-unquote catch a flight, which turned out to be taking his taxpayer-paid G5 to a weekend vacation." Hello at Senate GOP, or Senate Judiciary GOP. They're not going to do anything anyways. Christopher Wray's disingenuous testimony to the Senate Judiciary Committee Thursday before he left early on the FBI's private Gulfstream 550 jet speaks volumes about the need to defund the FBI, or at least dump its director. No. Defund and absolve the FBI. We don't need a national secret police force, a political police force, which is what they are. Let's be honest. Grassley and his team of Republicans expected to have the chance to ask a second round of questions. Well, we couldn't have that because then he might have to provide some transparency and accountability, and he might be pressed on things that he knows he cannot explain, like the Whitmer hoax. It is just so outrageous in every regard, in every aspect. He was asked about Richard Trask, who beat his wife after attending a swingers party in Kalamazoo. You couldn't make it up, even if you wanted to. Even more egregious was Jason Chambers, who ran the entire hoax case, opened it as a TEI, terrorism enterprise investigation from day one when there was no plot yet. The FBI had to manufacture one. He had a side business called X-Intel that was seeking a multi-million-dollar contract with the federal government to advise the feds on cases of domestic terrorism. So it would be really great for his private intelligence company if there was a big DT case he could run around in, and that would help his chances of getting that multi-million-dollar contract through his private company. We should be asking ourselves, why are FBI agents, while they're working at the FBI, creating private intelligence companies, also seeking work with the federal government on the very things that they're supposed to be investigating and doing? Isn't that a conflict of interest? It absolutely is. But the judge in that case, Judge Yonker, did not think that the jury needed to know that information, said it just wasn't relevant to the case. How is that not relevant? I think that it's a big deal, and it makes a big difference because it gets to the motivations of the people that were running this thing. It goes to the heart of the matter, in my opinion. So this is not surprising at all. Grassley asked for an extra 21 minutes. Wray took an early mark, dismissing the committee's constitutional obligation to ensure he answers questions under oath, to ensure the FBI complies with the law and is accountable to the American people. What was so urgent he had to leave after just 3.5 hours? Well, of course, his summer vacation. Duh. These people do whatever they want. Wray said, Senator, I had a flight that I'm supposed to be hightailing it to out of here, and I understand we were going to be done at 1:30, so that's how we ended up where we are. If it's your business trip, you've got your own plane. Can it wait a while? He asked. Wray replied, to be honest, I tried to make my break as fast as I could to get right back out of here. Right. The criminal Wray refused to specify the purpose of the flight and refused to deny that it was for business purposes, as Grassley wrongly assumed. He let a senator continue believing a falsehood, so no one questioned him about his insistence on leaving work early on a Friday afternoon again to go on vacation. Wrong. He left early for the weekend on a Thursday. He had to be wheels up by 1:30 p.m., he insisted. Yeah, of course. What do we expect? Do you agree that Russia collusion was a hoax? Wray says, I wouldn't use that terminology. Blackburn, do you agree Hunter Biden's laptop was not Russian disinformation? Wray, I can't comment on that. Nothing to see here, guys.
They're trying to do. Americans looked at what they perceived to be, and
oh no.
So a ton of money that was wasted on the Russia collusion investigation. So do you agree that the allegation of secret collusion between President Trump and Russia was a hoax? Yes or no?
I don't think that's the terminology I would use, but I think there's been a lot written on this subject, and both in the special counsel's report, the inspector general's report.
Yes or no is fine.
So that's not a term I would use.
Okay. Do you agree that the Hunter Biden laptop was not Russia disinformation?
Now you're asking about an ongoing investigation that I expect our folks to pursue aggressively, and I can't comment on that.
Okay, and you possess the laptop, right?
Again, I can't discuss that. An ongoing investigation.
Wow, just unbelievable, guys. You know, this is not surprising, but finally we have Trump addressing this. As far as I know, this is the first time he's ever talked about this case, really. I think except for when the headlines first came out, and I think that he wrongly believed that this was legitimate or something like that.
What? The Secret Service put out an announcement, which they never do, put out an announcement that it never happened, which everyone knew anyway. But they won't interview anybody from the Secret Service because they don't want to hear that. And I still see the Times writing about it like it's something that happened. They don't want that. They haven't called anybody from the Secret Service to put them on the stand. It's a disgrace what's going on. It's a one-sided witch hunt that continues and continues. As another example, the sting that they did involving Gretchen Whitmer was fake. Just like those who instigated January 6th. It was a fake deal. Fake. It was a fake deal. Gretchen, what?
Yes.
Secret Service.
Yes, it was. I'm glad that he's saying that because it absolutely is. That was totally fake. We have been covering that. We will continue to cover that case. The Wall Street Journal. How dare you? For people who read the Wall Street Journal, you should not. They are not on your side and they are not telling you the truth. They say federal prosecutors could face an uphill battle in the retrial that gets underway Tuesday of two men accused of conspiring to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer over her efforts to rein in the COVID-19 pandemic. Prosecutors face a tough task in the retrial of the two men accused of kidnapping. Yeah, well, why isn't the Wall Street Journal telling you the truth about this, what the FBI was doing? Hello? Federal prosecutors could face an uphill battle in the retrial that gets underway tomorrow of two men accused of conspiring to kidnap Whitmer over her efforts to rein in the pandemic. Right, that's what it was. In the first trial, a Grand Rapids, Michigan jury in April failed to reach unanimous verdicts for Adam Fox, the alleged ringleader of the plot in Barry Croft, while acquitting Brandon Caserta and Daniel Harris of all charges. No, in finding that the FBI had entrapped those men, okay? Adam Fox was not the leader of anything. He was living in the basement of a vacuum repair shop called the Vac Shack. Dan Chappell, Big Dan, the FBI informant, one of 12 FBI informants in this plot, he was the one running everything, including the field training exercises. It was the FBI that initiated the nationwide meetup of militia groups. They had an informant running each state chapter of each militia group. So these militia groups are in fact run by federal agents through their network of confidential human sources, aka FBI informants. The result was a blow to federal efforts to monitor and prosecute potential DTs, though it is unclear what made the jury reject the government's argument. Wow. So this is the Wall Street Journal, guys. They're not going to tell you the truth. It was incredibly clear what made them reject that government argument. It was the facts that showed that the FBI manufactured and instigated the entire thing. These guys never would have met each other if it wasn't for the FBI. Are you kidding me? Prosecutors, quote, need to assess and probably have whether it was a bad case or a bad jury the last time around. Right. Just blame the jury and keep going until you get the outcome that you want. How dare you? How dare these people? How embarrassing. In the retrial, defense attorneys who argued the men were entrapped by a charismatic informant, which they were, could have new tools in their arsenal, according to Ms. McQuaid. Quote, it's often harder to retry a case because the defense has the transcripts from the first time around, and a skilled defense attorney can make a lot of hay out of really minor inconsistencies. Oh, the prosecutors do that all the time. They cherry pick through the evidence. These prosecutors took 4 or 5 hour recordings and cherry-picked 17-second clips to play to a jury without providing any context or letting us hear any of the rest of that, which probably contradicted the things that they said in those 17-second clips. They run the show from start to finish. Prosecutors always have the upper hand. The jury didn't get to hear about the misconduct of the 3 lead FBI agents in the case, which the DOJ did not call any of them to testify. They were going to be the big star witnesses, until each of them were accused of different aspects of misconduct, ranging from committing perjury, so lying under oath in another case, to having a private intelligence company seeking a multi-million-dollar federal contract to advise the government on DT cases, and attempted murder of your wife. So it just runs the gamut here. And there was another prosecutor, Gregory Townsend, that was set to try the case in the first trial, and he was removed for also questions of misconduct. No one talks about that. I mean, it just goes on and on. Every single aspect of this case involves misconduct by the federal government, which the Wall Street Journal isn't going to tell you. The defense could also potentially call the 2 men who were acquitted the first time to deny that there was ever a conspiracy, because there wasn't. Matthew Schneider, another former U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Michigan and now with Chicago-based Honigman LLP, agreed that the 2 acquitted men could be a problem for the prosecution. But the government's job could be simpler this time, given there are only 2 defendants, not 4. The government's case, quote, is going to be much easier to explain, unquote. He said, yeah, try to explain why you manufactured a fake DT case and then picked a couple patsies as your fall guys. You go ahead and explain that. The prosecutors may also want to spend more time trying to weed out any biases among jurors. Oh, they didn't do that when it came to the George Floyd jurors. They had BLM people on that jury. That was okay to have biased people there, right? And what does that even mean? So what they're trying to do is pick the jury that they want, people that they know are already going to agree with them regardless of the actual evidence. Unbelievable. He also said prosecutors and the FBI might want to coordinate better about when to wrap up an investigation. Quote, the big question is, did the FBI arrest the defendants too quickly before they gathered enough evidence? Unquote, he said. No, they manufactured every single thing that happened, and it was egregious and disgusting. And how dare they? How dare they? So don't you support the Wall Street Journal. They're not interested in telling you the truth. None of these places are. Quote, Wray seemed really flummoxed when confronted about the FBI concocted plot to kidnap and assassinate Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, a clear case of FBI entrapment conceived and executed on his watch, unquote. Yeah. And I just thought that this was interesting. Biden's FBI claims, quote unquote, far-right extremists or white supremacists are one of the nation's biggest threats. But its, quote, most wanted DTs, unquote, list is entirely leftist, including communists, Black Panthers, and an eco-terrorist and non-whites. So there's a link there to the top 10 DTs. Days after Biden took office, a DHS fusion center issued a report saying right-wing DVEs, chiefly, quote, anti-authority extremists and, quote, militia extremists, unquote, were responsible for the majority of deadly domestic terrorist activity. It cited 3 examples. 1, the Boogaloo Movement, said to be a group of white men who wear Hawaiian shirts, completely made up by feds. 2, a plot to kidnap the governor of Michigan, which later resulted in acquittals after the defense showed undercover FBI operatives and trapped the defendants. 3, a man who set off a bomb near a telecommunications hub in Tennessee, even though the fusion center admitted, quote, the motive remains under investigation, unquote. The Daily Beast reported the bomber was a kind of hippie with long hair who liked smoking weed and hated cops. A DHS report said that in 2020, far-left attacks were a quote-unquote rarity. Members of the group most represented on the most wanted list, the Weather Underground and May 19 communist organization faction who are not on the lam, have been actively protected by Democrat politicians. Bill Clinton pardoned 2 members tied to the bombing of the U.S. Capitol. Judith Clark, one of the getaway drivers in the Brinks robbery, had her sentence commuted by New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. The other getaway driver, Kathy Baldwin, became a professor at Columbia University, and her son, Chesa Baldwin, was elected district attorney of San Francisco. Biden was a member of the Senate when far-left terrorists tried to blow the Senate up. Bill Clinton pardoned those terrorists. Then Joe Biden claimed that J6 was the worst attack in history. Very interesting stuff, guys. You know, I just think that it's interesting that, you know, we finally have people talking about this Whitmer case. I have been reporting on it since October of 2020, the beginning of this. We've been trying to get the truth out there, and I think that what this shows is that we can have an impact. Our coverage of this stuff can and will reach the right people, and then finally we'll have people like Ted Cruz, Dan Bishop, and President Trump openly proclaiming the truth, that this was a manufactured hoax from the beginning, which we know it was. Thank you guys for listening to the video. If you enjoy it, please like, subscribe, share the video, and leave a comment, you know, if you want, just saying. Ree and Sneed.